Hi, it's Toby from Heavywgt MMA, along with Volk's training partner, Colby Thicknesse, MMA fighter from Freestyle MMA Gym in Australia. Today, we're talking about UFC 276, analysis of my favorite fights, giving our predictions on these fights. Have a listen. So UFC 276, bro, pretty pumped about this one, actually. It's actually a great card. The other one was good. 275 is good because it's got a few people from our region, people I'm interested in, but this one's good because it's just a pretty solid card, eh?
Oh man, it's probably one of the most stacked cards of the year for off like name value, and especially for us, like you would have to say like emotional investment, just because there's so many big fights for the Australian and New Zealanders on the scene. Like, yeah, if you look top to bottom, there's not a bad fight on this card, sort of thing. You got, what is it, 1, 2, 3. You got the 3 Aussies, or 4. Yeah, 4 Aussies, New Zealanders. It's gonna be a good night of fights.
Sick, man. And first fight I wanted to talk about was Jalin Turner versus Brad Riddell. Just kicking it off, just to have a chat about these two. Even this one in itself could potentially be a main event on a smaller card, I reckon, because both these guys are great fighters. What are your thoughts on it, eh?
I think it's a great stylistic matchup for both fighters, and it's good matchmaking by the UFC. So Jalen's obviously on his tear with all finishes against Aussies and New Zealanders, and then they're obviously.
What is it about Jalin? He fucking keeps fighting people from the Anzac region. I'm gonna hopefully have a chat with him soon. I've got to have another go at him because they're just constantly matching him up with us. And the thing is, he actually loves Australia, man. Loves the region, but he always gets mashed up with our guys.
Yeah, and then you got Brad on the other hand coming off his obvious loss to Rafael, but up until that fight, it was super even contested. It was sort of hard to say the fight was going to play out a certain way. So I think it's great matchmaking by UFC, and sort of got the two of the sort of futures of a lightweight division that we're still going to be discussing these names in the sort of upper ranks coming in a few years' time, I think.
Yeah, man, it's kind of interesting for me. I don't know. I might be off track a little bit the way I look at him, but the way I look at Jalin is he just seems to have a lot of natural talent. Like his just the fluidity of his movement, and I think his ability will get better and better over the years to come. I think he's gonna have a real high skill set as he keeps working on the skills, and I think he's gonna keep getting better and better. And you add that to the fact that he's got that long range. I think he's going to be a real dangerous fighter, particularly in the future. And now he's just coming up, so he's running into a big test at this stage of his career, fighting Brad Riddell. Brad's like obviously such a polished fighter. Like, he's honed his skill over the years. I feel like he's kind of a master of his thing, which is stand up. And of course, he's been working everything else because he's a consummate professional. But in the stand up realm, that's his world, right? He's so polished, man. You watch him. I watched a couple of his fights this last night just to remind me, and he's won Fiziev, man. He could have won that. He was landing massive shots as well, and just so polished, eh? Like, everything's so perfect. The way he knows how to fight in stand-up ranges, man, is amazing.
Yeah, that just comes back to all his experience over the years of kickboxing, his Muay Thai fights, training all over the world, and just fighting the best guys. Like, not a lot of people, well, I guess more people know, but it's still so surprising. People don't know the level of opposition that Brad fought and beat in pure kickboxing sort of thing. Like, he's, arguably one of the most dangerous strikers in that lightweight division. Plus, he can wrestle when he has to. He's great takedown defense. He's fit. He's tough. Like, it's a hard fight for Jalin, to be honest. I'm surprised they gave this fight to him. Obviously, they needed to give Jalin a push, and it just obviously would have collided with the times that it worked well for Brad. But I think, it's going to be a banger of a fight. Yeah, I think it's going to play out a little bit differently. If people are expecting a just straight kickboxing war on the feet, I think they're going to be a little surprised. I think Brad's going to probably mix in a bit of grappling and really sort of nullify Jalin that way as well. It's going to be a lot more, more of a mixed martial arts fight than a kickboxing fight, which is, I think, what some people expect because there's two banging strikers going at it. But I think Brad's going to add that other grappling element into it.
Yeah, man, it's a difficult one to think of. I actually really think that Brad should kind of look into slowing it down and trying to make it into a a little bit of a cleaner kickboxing bout. That's what my feelings are. If he can make it into his realm, which is if he can just slow Jalin down, because Jalin charging forward when he fought Malaki, and they kind of, I think it kind of maybe shouldn't have gone that way for Jamie. I think if Jamie just slowed down that little bit, he might have done a little bit better. Like just tried to back it away and just slow that pace a little bit, because he was landing some nice shots and everything too, eh? But yeah, oh man, it's gonna be a banger, and I can't really pick exactly which way it's gonna go. For Riddell, like I said, I think
off the fence.
Get off the fence. I'm on the fence, bro. I'm on the fence. 100% I'm on the fence because we got two fucking we've got Jalin, who's a good cunt, talks to me. Fucking he's gonna have a chat to me about this one. His mum's around, he's up and comer, he's killing ass, he's kicking ass. If you do an MMA maths, he did a better job of when he fought Malaki than Riddell did. And then you go to Riddell, who's just awesome to watch, man. Like, I'm a big fan as well. He's from our region. So yeah, I'm on the fence. So this one's going to be decided by your Mr. Colby Thicknesse himself. What do you got, bro?
So how the fight plays out, I think we're going to see Jalin come out early. Both boys are going to be not hesitant, but they're going to probably get reads. If anybody decides to take the initiative first and be aggressive, I'm guessing it's going to be Jalin, purely because he will have the, I'm not so sure about size, because Brad is very, very like thick. Even though he's short, he's very stocky, he's very dense. But Jalin will definitely has like the reach advantage on longer. However, if a perfect fight example is, like I said on the last week's, was just Brad versus Regan Ursel. Was a banging fight, same sort of build, tall, long. Brad does the knees up the middle really well. He chops the legs, he works the body. And I think also having that takedown threat is where we saw with Jamie in his last fight. At the end of the first round, he ended up coming under and took him down and controlled him in guards, sort of thing. I think Brad can do the same thing if Jalin does apply too much pressure. His defense on the striking will be, top notch, how it always is. He's very hard to catch him out of position and hit him clean, sort of thing. He's very few times where he will get caught like that, unless he gets drawn into that dogfight. But I think he's sort of a lot past that sort of stage. And then I think, yeah, it's going to be, he's going to take him down a couple of times. They're going to get up. And then I think Brad's just going to be that little bit fresher. I think it's going to be pretty even throughout the whole fight. I'm still thinking Brad's probably going to secure all 3 rounds, if I'm being honest. I don't see a finish happening. Jalen's super tough, but I think Brad's just going to get the 30-27 victory on the scorecards. We might see Jalin, if he is down 2, really press forward in the third, which could open him up for opportunities to get finished. But I think otherwise, I think Brad's just, Jalen's good. He's up and coming. He's got a lot of good things going for him, but I think Brad is just that sort of next step above. And just stylistic wise, Jalen's been hurting everyone, but I just think it's hard to really play that sort of game against someone like Riddell, unless you're a Fiziev or something like that, where you are at the same sort of technical ability as him. I think Jalen's a little bit behind him with striking. I think that's pretty much all that's gonna come down to. Is Brad's just gonna be that little bit better everywhere.
Julija Stoliarenko versus Jessica Rose Clark. Jessica Rose Clark coming from Australia. So I'm backing her to win again, but it's going to be a pretty close one. They've both got kind of similar ideas. They both like it on the ground. Stoliarenko, slightly younger, slightly more reach. They do have some stand-up battles here and there, but they usually like to be on the ground. Stoliarenko seeks submission. She's got lots of subs on her record, likes the armbar. Jessie Rose Clark likes to get position and just control them from the top.
Yep.
So she likes a body lock. She likes to get them down. She's got a couple of KOs on her record as well. Versus Stoliarenko has no KOs on her record. What are your thoughts on it, bro?
I think it's good to see Jess bounce back fairly quickly after her last loss. Obviously, that was her first round submission loss, but before that, she had 2 good wins. She had the TKO and the decision. Honestly, this other chick, I had no idea. I'll just be honest about who she was. I ended up going back and sort of just watching a couple of highlights and stuff like that. She's obviously on a 3-fight skid in the UFC now, but that's been said, she has won 9 before that, and her last loss before that was back in 2018. So she did have that little run which gets her there. And like you said, she's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. She's got them submissions victories, and I think it's 2 ways I could see this playing out. I could see it being a really grappling sort of heavy match where it's on the map for most of it, or this could be the case where both girls are a little bit hesitant to engage in a grapple, then we do just see it playing out on the feet standing.
Man, when I watch Jessie, I see that her stand-up, she hasn't, I don't think she's really worked on it to make it what it could be, because she looks like she's got some natural gifts with some really nice, like speed and stuff. In comparison to Stoliarenko, she's got some natural ability. She's a bit more explosive. But when she fights stand-up, she engages in like a stand-up battle. She goes straight forward, and that I like to see her. I'm nothing to do with her training. I don't know anything about it, but I'd like to see her angle a bit more and move a little bit more and use that natural talent in and out, faking and that, which she tends just to walk forward into a battle, what I saw. Whereas Stoliarenko's like got that real slow twitch muscle fiber. She looks terrible in the stand-up to me. She's slow. She's got a real fucking shitty jab, but she kind of hits him with the jab because she's off timing slightly, and she throws like her whole shoulder into the punch and that. So she lands a few, but just fucking horrible to watch in the stand up. What are your thoughts on him on the stand up side, bro?
Oh, it's just gonna play into my pick, but yeah, I was gonna say if it plays out how I think it's gonna play out, I think fuck, how do you even say the other chick's name? Julia. Julia. Yeah, I was thinking of the last time we were going to try it. We're going with Julia. Julia's probably going to try and press the grapple. I think Jessie's going to have too good defense to keep her away. And if it does hit the fence, I think, yeah, Clark's pretty comfortable there. So I think we're going to see it stay on the feet. And I think purely the technical difference is there. Jessica isn't the sort of flashiest red hot striker in that bantamweight division of the females, but she can still put her punches together, throw combos, have some shots. Whereas, yeah, on the other hand, Julia's striking leaves a lot to be desired. And I think we're just going to see sort of, if it plays out how I think Jessica's just going to keep it on her feet. If it hits the ground, they're probably going to get up straight away. And Jessica's just going to probably, once she realizes she can beat her just with her hands, I think she's just going to sort of stick to that. And yeah, I think she's going to start piecing her up, to be honest.
Yeah, man, I got Jessica just based on her like athleticism. I feel like she's got, stronger athleticism. She's got more experience within the UFC as well. She's got 7 fights in the UFC versus 3 losses for Julia. And I'm hoping Jessica starts to land a bit early, press her against the cage, gets the body lock, throws a few strikes in there as well, and takes her down and controls her and gets a points win. But she has to be careful of Julia's submission ability, right? Like she does real well, and especially on her back, especially taking the armbar. So something to be very careful of.
Yeah, definitely. She's not going to be able to sort of never in any fight. You never can, but she's going to have to make sure she's focused and completely aware for full 15 minutes. I'm mainly saying that because if she does feel like she'll get ahead, she can't really coast on that lead, because that's how sometimes you can let people like this get back into the fights a little slip up, especially if Jessica's going to look to be on top controlling. She needs to make sure that every little detail is correct. She's alert. As soon as there's an option for a submission, she's already shutting it down, or she's addressing it by posturing whatever situation they stays in. If she can just sort of do that, I think she's going to be pretty comfortable. And then I think same thing, she's going to get the decision win. I think if she hits the ground, she's going to be too much on top. I think a submission or two might get thrown up. She won't be in any real danger. And when it gets back on her feet, I think that's where we're going to see the biggest difference. I think Jessica is just going to start to piece her up on her feet. She might even hurt her a couple of times. I don't think it's going to be a finish, but I think it should be a pretty clear-cut decision by the end of it. Now
moving on, I'm skipping a few fights because I know we got a time deficit, bro. I can't come up with spare time to look at everything, but yeah. I'm pretty pumped about this next fight. Pedro Munoz versus Sean O'Malley. I'm pretty fucking excited, man. Like I'm excited to watch Sean O'Malley fight anyway. I'm a fan of his. I watch his podcast, and he's kind of cool guy. But he's coming up against a big test with Pedro Munoz. What's your first thoughts on this one?
I think this is, once again, UFC does some fantastic jobs with their matchmaking. I think they realized that Sean needed a push after his last one, but he also needed a push which stylistically plays in very well to his game plan if they want to sort of keep his hype train. Well, it's not really a hype train because he is good. He's very skillful, don't get me wrong, but the sort of hype he has, I think he's more popular, even though it doesn't mean much, but like on social media, I think he's more popular than everyone except Jan. But he's like by far one of the most populated what is the word I'm trying to say? Popular. Fuck me. That was my link. We'll just find out with a
Guys
concussion.
and girls, don't do striking.
Don't do it. Don't do headbutts either. But just he's super popular for where he is, and I think this was a great matchup because you start getting him with like the Marabs and the top echelon of that division. It does get a little bit tricky for him, sort of thing. But Munoz is a very winnable fight for him. He's been in there the best stylistically. I think it makes sense, and plus it's another top 15 name, so it looks good on the resume.
Yeah, man, and I think, like you said, if you look at the guys at that level, Sean O'Malley would have been choosing to fight Pedro Munoz as one of his first picks because the guy's so small. This is the main thing. So the height 168 versus 180, reach 183 versus 165. So he's pretty much going to have like a 20 centimeter reach advantage. It's fucking massive. And the way he fights, he really utilizes his reach. So I think he looks at it and thinks this gives him a massive advantage. And that's something that he's going to just try and use that. If he just stays on the outside, he's going to win. He's going to smash him. But the question is, can he stay on the outside? Because he's fighting a guy that's superior in terms of grappling on paper anyway, and a guy that has massive experience. So Munoz has fought the who's who of the UFC in his division, man. He's fought so many great people. He's fought Cruz, Aldo, Rivera, Sterling, Garbrandt, Dodson, etc. O'Malley hasn't fought these guys, you know, so it's a risk. It's a risk for Sean O'Malley, but it's a calculated risk because he's fighting someone that's so short. Yeah, so it's fucking a good match for him, but it's also a difficult match for him. It's not a walkover. This is a very difficult fight.
Yeah, exactly right. But even if we're just, this is going off topology though. So you look at the top 10, you've got Song Yadong, who's obviously, Cruz is, I think Cruz would be a good matchup for O'Malley. I think he's a little bit slower. I think Sean could catch him. Someone like Marab's a hard fight for him. Rob Font's a hard fight. Then you got like TJ, Sandhagen, Cheetah. We saw how that played out of Yarn. So I think this is one of his sort of last fights where he can sort of come out, do his sort of showboat in his flashiness and style and sort of make, if it plays out and he gets to keep this fight in his whole range, I think he's going to leave this fight looking absolutely unreal. He can keep his distance, keep Munoz on the edge of everything he throws. And when he does come in, catch him coming in with like knees and his spin attacks and everything like that. I think it's going to be a good showing for Sean. Then again, Pedro's tough. He's been in there with the best. He can pretty much know the game plan. He's probably going to lose. He's going to look to chop the legs early, close distance, make it a dogfight, try and put him on his back. And if that plays out, it's going to be interesting to see because it's going to sort of, obviously Sean is still pretty young in his career, but it's going to sort of show where if we see people like someone like Pedro having success implementing this game plan of Sean, it's probably going to say a lot about where his ceiling will be with the top sort of guys and that, because if Pedro is taking you down, you imagine what the sort of top guys of that division can sort of do to you.
Yeah, bro. That last fight he had with Piver, of Sean O'Malley for Piver, and I was predicting a much tougher fight. And because of the odds, I think I even bet on Piver in like a parlay or something. And O'Malley proved me very fucking wrong. He just destroyed him, you know.
It looked unreal, yeah.
But I feel like a hater or something. Like I like to watch this guy. I like his personality. I like his style. But again, I kind of like looking at this guy and just thinking another big test, like a guy that can really grapple. And that's obviously something that hasn't really been tested with O'Malley other than when he fought Cheeto. And Cheeto, like there was other things at play, but Cheeto, he did it easy, right? And I kind of feel like Munoz, again, is just a fast, sharp guy, very small though. But I think if he can engage and he's experienced enough to get in there, I think we could potentially see Sean O'Malley tested in a grappling aspect that he hasn't been tested in before, you know. Munoz just seems so like based. You look at his balance, you know, the way he moves is like a little ball and he's so fluid and everything. I think if he can get that to a grapple, I really like to see that. I really like to see what happens if he can get in that distance, because that's what he's got to be doing. He can't be thinking I'm going to stand and trade with O'Malley because O'Malley's too long. He's got to be thinking I've got to somehow just get past that reach and grab something and engage in a grapple and take him down and see how we go from there. Because he's a judo guy. He's a brown belt judo player, black belt BJJ. He's got to know that's his strength. You know, he's got to know that's what he's going to work. And I just want to see how he can get there, because it's easier said than done, I guess.
that's the problem, because even if, well, realistically, how are you going to beat Israel Adesanya? You're going to have to get in close. You're going to have to put him on the back. So in theory, the blueprint is there. The blueprint is there for a lot of fighters. The problem comes to actually executing it when you're in there. And I think that's what is, everybody can train for guys like Sean O'Malley and that, but until you're actually in there with him and you can sort of feel the range he likes to keep, and then you have to add in the fact that he's a finisher, man. He's a sniper. He's super accurate. He's got great timing. He's got good fakes and setups. He really sort of gets you into like a real uncomfortable sort of rhythm. And then he's just firing pot shots and just slowly making you hit and making you miss him. And I think his style works so well because a style like that makes it hard to actually come in on you and get put on your own back. So he sort of knows that, all right, I'm not the strongest off my back. So a lot of, what does he do? He uses his striking as his first layer of defense against the actual takedowns. But then he has his actual takedown defense and everything on top of that. Whereas, yeah, I think it's going to be a hard night for Pedro. Like realistically, he's 35. He's 1-4 in his last 5 against the best of the best sort of thing. But still, I think we're going to see where Sean is just sort of that next level on that come up, and Pedro sort of on the way down. And I think we're just going to see Sean keep the distance. Even if Pedro does get him down, I think Sean's got some underrated jiu-jitsu, to be honest. Like he's very crafty on the feet. So I would imagine that style translates a lot over to the grapple, because how you like to strike, if you're a slow, plodding, methodical, you like to really set things up, it's going to translate to how you grapple. You like to shut down positions, control, and slowly work to the better. Whereas Sean's very flashy, so I think we'll see that in his grappling. He's going to be super scrambly, and that creates opportunities to get up. He's going to be hard to hold down. So, yeah, I think Pedro, if he can follow the game plan, it will make it interesting. But that being said, it's a lot easier to train for a game plan than going out and actually executing it against someone like Sean O'Malley.
Yeah, man, I think you're right about the grappling side. It'd be cool to see Sean have to engage in a grapple and see how he goes, because they are pretty grappling heavy, I believe. Like I listen to their podcast a lot, and his coach is a grappler. He's competed in ADCC recently. He's very, very BJJ heavy, right? That's basically the coaching that he seems to focus on. So I'm sure, and Sean talks about all the time grappling. He talks about like grappling and training with other people and that. And I'm sure he's got the skills as well. So it'd be cool if he did get tested in that way, so we can see like has he got that skill set as well, and how does it translate in his like body type and that, because you know a long gangly guy that can be amazing with some of the like triangles etc. too. So it'd be cool to see how he goes.
Yeah, exactly right. I think it's going to be if it does hit the ground, I think it's going to be interesting, because only problem with where we saw him on the ground against Pereira was obviously he had that no sort of take anything away from Cheeto. He gave him that injury. It's just he won that fight fair and square. But he did have grapple off one leg sort of thing, and it was compromised. So, but we saw that again. Was it the Kyle Boschiak fight? Was that for what? No. But you know the fight I'm talking about with Sean O'Malley, where he had the dead leg as well, sort of thing. It happened. Then old mate decided to take him down, and he just sat off his back. So that was obviously a very low fight IQ moment for, I forget the bloke's name or whatever. But I think, if Sean gets put on his back early, especially when they're fresh, I think we're going to see a lot of cool little scrambles. And I want to see it, because then we can see. But who knows? Maybe it sounds good in theory, but Pedro puts him down, he shuts his hips down real well, and he just grinds him out and sort of can start securing rounds that way. So I think that's going to be the biggest what if, because I think if it stays on the feet, I think we all know realistically how this fight's going to play out. I think the biggest what if to swing the fight would be once it hits the ground, and how's the first sort of couple of grappling exchanges look, and also how do they look when they get up. It's all good to be crafty and tricky if you're back, but if that saps a lot of energy, then it starts to take away from your striking. And then if Sean's striking starts to sort of fall because the cardio is coming down a little bit from all the constant grappling, then your first line of defense, which is your striking, starts to suffer, and we might see Pedro getting a few more takedowns that way.
Yeah, bro. I'm actually, when I look at these two, I kind of look at the odds. The odds, Pedro Munoz is around 3-1. Sean O'Malley's 1.38 to 1. So when I look at those odds and I kind of make a judgment on what I would bet on Munoz, to be honest, based on the odds and based on his experience and his grappling prowess. That's only based on that. If it was clean both odds exactly the same. I'd probably bet on O'Malley, but when in this case, when I think of Munoz's odds are just a little bit higher for what his skill set and experience brings. So in my head, I kind of think O'Malley from that striking edge, the massive range difference is on the tear. But if I was betting, I'd bet on Munoz just for the pure fact that the odds are better for the skills he had. I think it should be closer. So yeah, my take's kind of a bit mixed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm pretty comfortable in picking Sean O'Malley. I think we're going to see I think we might even see a TKO, to be honest. I think Sean's going to, find his chin and crack him. I think we're probably going to see like a second round TKO.
Firstly, having a chat about Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira. Not sure 100% about the pronunciation of that one, but I know it's not whatever you were saying before. That's what I do know. That's what I do.
Whatever I say, just go the opposite, and it's probably going to sound a lot better.
Yeah, true. So how do you say it?
I don't know. I was calling him Alex. Alex P.
Alex P. Oh, Alex.
Alex P.
Yeah, bro.
So Alex.
So this is a wicked fight, man. Like there's some good fights coming up this week coming, and then this one as well. This is a wicked fight because you've got like kind of consummate professional MMA fighter versus a stand-up fighter. Basically, these old adage kind of still gets me excited, man. Seeing a gun striker against really what is an MMA fighter, and it does make for an exciting matchup, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Plus, there's a lot of hype around Alex too. Obviously, he's got the decision victory over Izzy, which was pretty close contested. But then he's got the flat sort of knockout of him over. So it sort of has that real X factor. And to have that guy, it's obviously why they did it. If he gets through Strickland, they're going to try and sort of catapult him to that title shot. Just to sort of add some new fresh blood to the division. But I think he's got a tough task in front of him with Sean Strickland, to be honest.
Yeah, man. Like we always talk about like the people riding a wave and that and coming up and the momentum, and Strickland's got a bit of momentum these days, right? Like he's kicking some ass, he's getting more popular, he's doing well, he seems to be getting tougher in that as well, and he seems to be working into his stand-up game a bit. And Pereira, obviously he's also probably at the top of his game, but he's probably a bit more battle worn through the kickboxing and that, and I'd say he's making his way up in MMA, but yeah, is he really going to be able to get into that upper echelon of MMA? It's a big ask, right?
It is, but going off how he looked in his last few fights, like his last fight with it was Bruno Silva. That was a very sort of impressive display against a sort of a good sort of high level. No, I wouldn't say like top of the peak, but he was a good high level guy in the UFC sort of thing. And it was sort of good where he showcased all his attributes, his takedown defense, his sort of cage control. Obviously, his striking is going to be absolutely phenomenal, and that was a absolute barn burner fight. So I was stoked when they put this. I was a bit surprised, but then, yeah, I guess Sean Strickland will talk shit and fight anyone. So, yeah, I'm keen to see how this plays out.
The interesting thing that I found, though, is that he does get like a lot of shots landed on him, right? Like he gets in the mix and he actually gets landed on, which is kind of a little bit different than someone like Izzy who barely gets hit. Like he does when he exchanges, but when he fought Silva, he seemed to be getting hit quite a lot, right? Did you watch that one?
Yeah, I did. I probably can't say, but how I may or may not have been, hypothetically, I may or may not have been driving and had it on my phone and was like, maybe, we won't say. So I didn't catch a lot of it, but I heard a lot of oohs and ahs and sort of just, I listened to the commentary, okay? If the phone was down, that's what we'll say. If the phone was down, I just listened to the commentary and hear what they had to say. But yeah, what I remember from it, yeah, he doesn't mind getting caught up in the exchanges, which is, I don't think that's a big worry against someone like Sean Strickland, though, because Strickland doesn't really knock people out flat. He's sort of more just lots of volume, sits behind his jab, and he doesn't really load up too super heavy on shots. So I think Alex definitely has a power advantage, but the problem is Sean is very, very tough. He's hard to put out.
Yeah, you can see like Alex kind of relies on his jaw, like he trusts in his jaw and that. But you can see his stand up is just a level above what the guys he's competed against so far. He's so relaxed in there, but he does seem open to a few shots, man. Like he gets hit in the head. He also quite open for like calf and lead leg kicks as well. Like he's in a slow measured pace. He's very heavy on the front leg. And I think although he's a superior striker, if he starts to get hit there, he'll probably be able to adapt and that. He still is a bit open to a few strikes, which is probably key for Strickland to take advantage of, considering he's kind of leans on the striking edge of MMA anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly right. He has a very sort of jab heavy approach with that sort of awkward style where it's very non-committal. He's just sort of flicking it out just to sort of get reactions and build from there. I think the biggest thing we're going to see is probably Strickland trying to, as much as he says he's going to stand in the middle and bang with everybody, I don't think that's the best idea. I think he should look to take the fight to the ground. Trains at a good gym, pardon me, in Extreme Couture. So I'm guessing surely they're going to have sort of some form of game plan where it does involve it, not actual groundwork, at least some form of like clinch control, ground control to really sort of just make Alex wear Sean's weight and really try to sort of drain his arms and drain the legs and sort of sap that movement and explosiveness out of him.
Did you see that clip of Strickland when he was doing some grappling with that Orlando,
yeah.
And he sort of reefed his elbow.
Cranked him sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that one, man? Because I don't know, man. He was being a cock like the way he was acting anyway. So like I think it's not that fucking out of the question. I've seen that shit happen before too, many times, like just similar movements, right?
I've seen it happen with a lot less. And Sean Strickland definitely isn't everybody's cup of tea. So if you got like a big guessing, probably Orlando's probably on some sort of sauce. It's probably got a short fuse, and Sean probably said something he didn't like, and then yeah, exactly right, just gave him a slap and then went for the shoulder crank. Apparently there was stuff before and after it, but I didn't get too much into it. I thought it was just more sort of stupid to do that to an MMA fighter. But then obviously I looked into more who Sean Strickland was, and I was like, oh, makes a little bit more sense now.
Yeah, there was a story behind it. I can't remember the exact story, but it seemed to sort of justify a little bit, like he's been a full cock. So, sometimes this happens, like he's not coming up against the normal people. He's coming up against a beast of a grappler, right? Like he just gave him a little taste of, a little kick in line or something,
Yeah. Well, man, I remember I listened to Sean he did like a 5-minute interview with Schmo, and there was like a solid 30 seconds where they just had to blur it out. That's how bad the shit he was saying was. Yeah. And that's how you know, like, if it's bad. If somebody has to like beep what you say on a YouTube video, he's probably saying some pretty controversial shit.
Yeah, bro. Courses in the house. He's just found us, even we just do it on a random time in the middle on a Monday. He's found us.
Good man.
That's it. Yeah. So, bro, I don't know, man. Like, for what's your final take on this one, bro? Like, what do you reckon is going to take it? It's a pretty tricky one to pick, I reckon.
Definitely. I'm not sure what the odds are, but I'm guessing
odds are Strickland is the favorite at 1.8 to 1, and Pereira is 2 to 1. So it's close.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to have to lean towards. Yeah, purely I see you run this fight 100 times. I see it more playing out in Strickland by decision than Pereira by KO. But I can also see Pereira decision or KO because he's that crafty. But I think if Sean grapples, which I think he will, and you say you think he will, but he's a fucking maniac, so who knows? Big X factor. I'm gonna have to pick Sean. Just MMA experience wise, I think he's gonna be too crafty and too sort of. He's versed some good guys. He's seen it all before. I think Strickland probably by the decision. I think he's gonna finish him.
Yeah, I'm not the same, man. You've taken the words out of my mouth to an extent, man. He's a well-rounded guy, well-rounded MMA fighter. And when you do like the kind of MMA mass on it, it should win, right? Like Pereira's 2 wins he got were pretty weren't so clear. They were good, but they weren't that clear. He got hit, and I'm expecting Strickland to mix it up more, clinch and grapple. Yeah, have a messy fight and get the win by unanimous points decision as well. That's my idea on it. So yeah, let's see. But I'm pumped to watch this one too.
Do you think Strickland gets the next title shot if he gets to Pereira?
I think it's probably like close to 100%, right? Because he's getting a name, so people are going to be interested to watch it, and because the division's getting cleaned out, so who else is he going to fight, right? But if Pedro gets through, he might still have to prove himself.
So you reckon I heard a few people say actually that if Pereira beats Strickland, he would need to sort of have another fight in there. So what's the top 10 sort of playing out though in that division? Because
if you think about it, imagine you put him against Rob or something. I would say Rob will eat him alive, to be honest.
Yeah,
that's my feeling in it anyway. He would just know how to approach it, right? From a good striker background, but can also wrestle and grapple. So you're different.
Yeah. So after Cannonier, like, I guess, yeah, Sean makes sense because he's on the win streak. But besides him, like, everybody in the top 15 is either coming off a loss or they've already lost to Izzy sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy how sort of...
You might have to do it and get through one of those gatekeepers to get to that shot, yeah.
Yeah, maybe do, like, after the Vittori Whitaker, do, like, a Pereira versus Whitaker or Vittori sort of fight, or see what happens.
Tough bunch of guys. Tough group for him to get through, man. So I think Izzy and that'd be laughing watching him go up to face those guys on his way to get to him, right?
Yeah, well, who's even like a Jack Manson or someone like that, like a nice strong wrestler, or like a Brunson or someone, I think would really, really test him.
Yeah.
Because Brunson's been looking good lately, actually.
Now the next one, bro, I'm not even sure. When I look at the next fight that I want to talk about, I'm not sure who you'll have, because we got Alex Volkanovski.
Who's that?
You might know him. Versus Max Holloway, and anyone that's listening that doesn't know, Colby's a training partner of Alex. Gets beaten up by him and probably beats him up a little bit himself sometimes. So
you said that, not me. I got to spar him in a couple of months, so I ain't saying anything.
Well, the thing is, as you know, even a Gumby has his day, as we've talked before. So I'm sure you learn quite a bit, and it's it's a combat sport. So you get bits and pieces off him. It's just as him being what he is, I'm sure he probably gets the better side of it.
Exactly right. Spot on.
Now, man, to be honest, I haven't even written that much down on it, because I kind of think that your perspective is kind of more interesting than mine, because you're coming at it from a real angle of understanding. So, what's your feelings on this one, man? What's your feelings about their previous fights, and then what do you think will change going to this one from both of them?
Obviously, I'm gonna sort of have to watch what I say with everything,
of course.
But I think the first fight was sort of like Alex's sort of coming out party, because there's a lot of people who didn't expect that, and everybody thought like his only chance was to knock him out. And as we saw, he went out. One judge gave him all 5. 2 other judges gave it 3-2. I personally can see, or I thought all 5 was pretty standard sort of thing. Maybe you could give Max one of them, but I thought Alex outstruck him every round of the first. He sort of controlled the pace, landed the bigger shots. Obviously, Holloway had a couple of moments, but I think over 25 minutes, Volko really sort of clear cut, just shut Holloway out of that first fight. Second fight was a lot harder, definitely in the that was at Fight Island. There's a few sort of iffy circumstances that happened around, like the night before, decided and all that sort of shit, which sort of may not have played a factor. But Volko ended up dropping, obviously got dropped and dropped the first 2 rounds. Third round was pretty close, and then Volko sort of comfortably took away the championship round, the 4th and 5th. I think everybody at this point sort of knows, like, that's a sort of fight you can't call a robbery sort of thing. Like, obviously it was close, but a robbery is, say, you win 4, they win 1, you give them the fight sort of thing. This wasn't a robbery, it was a close fight. There's been plenty of breakdowns and everything now done, analysing that 3rd round, which was a controversial round, and going by numbers, Volko done enough to win that round. It's just, I get what people see with the 10-9 scoring system, because technically in a different rule set, Holloway's rounds were sort of the bigger rounds. He won by a more definitive margin because he dropped Volk. But it doesn't matter how much you win the round by, because it's only a 10-9, 10-8, 10-7, or 10-10. So if it's 10-9, it doesn't matter what happened, that's your score. Then after that, you can forget that first round going to the next, and it resets. If it was sort of one championship or old school pride where they scored a bit differently, it might change things. But then you got to think, these guys are at the elite level. They're fighting to the rules. Volko knew he lost the first 2, so he's like, I have to win back the next 3. And that's what he did. I think the biggest takeaway from that second part, which got me angry, was the lack of people sort of respecting the adjustments Alex made mid-fight, but not even that, the actual in Holloway's best rounds. He is that championship guy where he finishes guys, finished Aldo twice in the 3rd round. He crumbles people. Like, his best round against Cater was the 3rd or 4th round. Best round against Ortega did he finish him in the 4th? Like, it's always his later rounds where he starts really putting it on and people crumble. And that's where Volko took away from it. I think that was like a big narrative miss from the fight. As for adjustments and that coming into the snack fight, honestly, you're probably going to guess Max is going to try and obviously limit the leg kicks. But yeah, I thought he would have done more of that against Zaire, and he still copped a fair few, and he ended up looking to wrestle. So he comes from a great team. Like, he's obviously one of the best to do it in that division. And yeah, I think it's hard to, without getting into too much detail, I think you sort of got a rough idea of what Max is probably going to try and look for. And then it's just adjusting to that, but it's also just sort of being more comfortable with Alex just playing what's in front of him, sort of thing, instead of trying to really force like the set game plan, just sort of see what comes in. He's going to sort of control the fight and take his where he's comfortable, sort of thing.
Yeah, man, it's a good point about like normally Max just overwhelms people in time, but in this case, he was on a downward slide when Alex was on the upward trajectory. So it's kind of cool, right? That he did that to him. And yeah, it's a debatable one, but it's so close that there's nothing really to debate, you know, because it was a close fight, and you know it is what it is. They under that rule set and everything, Alex won, you know. And sometimes when you judge a fight, you're usually looking towards the later half of the fight too, right? Like the first half of the fight, they're still feeling each other out and working things out, you know. So for me, the second half of the fight actually matters more than the first half. That's my own personal sort of thinking, though. But in saying what we're saying, I watched the second fight again the other day, and I'm just I would like to see Alex working a little bit more takedowns and clinch, man, like rather than just being a kickboxing war. I just like to see it. I know Max is super difficult for this side of things. He's super good defense, but I just like to see that. Like to see if that impacts the swing and the momentum of Max that he likes to start off with, because that will really shut down his momentum. Yeah, because he just starts going, like you see him against Qatar, his momentum just started compounding from landing the shots, man. And, you know, if it could have been mixed up a little bit, I think Qatar could have changed it a little bit, but it was just all Max is building his momentum off his mad boxing skills. Yeah. So that's something I'd like to see, is a bit more attacks from whether they're feints, whether they're threats, whether they're actual takedowns or clinching. I'd just like to see it mixed up a little bit more from Alex. And also I'd change the dynamics of the fight for the fans too. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. I think also, but like when you saw with Yair, is that even being willing to trade with Holloway, whereas people sort of, they cop, because Holloway will throw like a 6-punch combo, but the first 4 are to set up the last 2. And a lot of like Cater, he just kept hitting him, drifting him to that right hand. So the first 2 punches are just get him lined up for the right, hit the right, then pretty much start like a second combination off that sort of thing. And you see guys who are willing to sort of trade and interrupt Max's combo and not let him sort of set and take off with the lead sort of thing. They don't let him throw the boom, boom, boom. He throws 1, 2, then you start intercepting him mid combo on that. I think that's where Yair had a lot of success, and which forced Max to look for a takedown. So there's a few things in there, but yeah, it's hard because obviously I can't get into too much detail.
Yeah. So would you be right in saying that Volk hits pretty hard, bro?
Man, I came into, because they were doing pro like for sparring at 3, and I helped with do a kids class at 4. So I always come in like, because I can't spar, I always come in like 20 past 3, a little bit earlier just to watch some rounds. And like, yeah, man, like fuck, he hits hard. Like I know it. After watching the zombie fight, I think everybody knows it.
I think it's what you're saying about people not recognizing. Like one thing I recognize in that fight too is you watch Max when he's not scared or not worried about the power, he just goes for it. You know, when he was very tentative with Alex, and you could see Alex land some big shots, and I think he felt the power. He feels the power and knows that there's some danger there, because he doesn't go all out like he does with some of the guys that he fights. He doesn't just wade in. He's like a little bit tentative, you know, in comparison to some of his other fights. So I think he does respect the power of Volk.
Yeah, exactly right. And also it's just like, pardon me, even Alex says about himself, like it's easy to sort of like, no disrespect to Cater or anything like that, but it's not easy, but you can do things like that to him because he'll let you. But it's completely different when you have someone like Volk in front of you. Like styles make fights, and like as we know after previously clashes, like these two are great styles that sort of match up quite well against each other, which makes it super interesting. Whereas sort of Holloway just sort of had that style and that plan just to out volume the sharpshooter and Calvin, and just sort of put hands on him fucking badly because of that, purely off the stylistic matchup. So yeah, I think it's going to be a sort of similar to the first fight. I think, to be honest, who knows? Like Volker hits that hard. There's going to be a day where Holloway's chin's crack. Would I be shocked if it happens in this fight? Absolutely not. Like speed, power, everything. Like Volk is just like firing on all cylinders. Like we saw it in his last couple of
Volk's
fights.
improving, man. He's getting more powerful. You can see it, right? So yeah, definitely getting more powerful. So there's danger for me.
Exactly. And like even just that, like he's with that speed comes a little bit better with a time in and just for and everything. So everything's sort of coming together for that. Like, don't be wrong, like Holloway's tough. So man, like he's probably got the best chin in UFC. He's one of the hardest guys to put away. But if anybody can do it, and after all Holloway's wars, I think Volk's definitely the guy who can sort of break his chin.
All right, now on to the main event, which some people are saying that Israel's losing star power. What do you think about that, bro? I'm not really so sure. Like, I think it's just people talking shit, right? Like, I still want to watch him fight, man. And yeah, I don't know why people are saying that so much. Have you heard that?
I think purely, I haven't heard that take, but I think purely because he's fighting Cannonier. But so what happens when you're elite and you fuck up everybody else in your division? You got to fight some of these lesser known guys or move up, which he's tried and he was unsuccessful. He obviously can't go down, so he's just got to sort of clear and lap the divisions so some new sort of fresh blood comes out. Like obviously, yeah, I don't know. I think because all his other fights were big, like the 2 Rob fights, a Costa fight, there was a lot of sort of animosity. There was a lot of hype. There was a lot of social media back and forth. Like it was trending pretty heavily, like over all the sort of social media network sort of thing. There's a lot of hype around it. Whereas Cannonier isn't the sort of character to play into that sort of thing. So I think it's sort of not hard. Well, it's going to be harder to sell with Cannonier, which is why I think they sort of extra stacked his card sort of thing. Because I feel like if you had like the Paulo Costa on here or someone like that, you wouldn't have to have as many sort of bangers on the undercard. But then again, it's International Fight Week, so they do like to stack the card pretty heavily. But I think competitively wise, it's still like a good fight for Izzy. It's going to be a good test. And this is just what happens. Like Jared's no scrub. He's the 3rd best middleweight of the world sort of thing. I think people just put Izzy on like such a pedestal and they want to see all this sort of against like, I don't know. It's just people just want sort of that spectacular show and they can't really just sort of appreciate just like how MMA works sometimes. Like sometimes the top guys just got to face their contenders and just sort of get them done and just to add to the legacy sort of thing.
Yeah, man, when I look at this one, like Jared's obviously dangerous and that. And if Izzy didn't have that background in kickboxing, if he just came into MMA, they'd be pretty even. But when you add on, like, they're pretty close in the MMA fights, like 20 fights for Jared versus 23 fights for Izzy. But when you add in, he's had 80 fights that are kind of on record of kickboxing with 75 wins. It just translates to a whole different sort of animal, especially when Jared is a stand-up fighter. And I think that's where the difference is. Like, Izzy's like a sharpshooter, you know, he's a master craftsman, and Jared's still like coming into his own, I would say, in the realm of MMA. Like, it just seems like that to me, that's the main difference. And Jared's dangerous as hell. You know, he's like a beast, like rolls forward, so strong, hard punching, relaxed. He's getting better as well, but you know, he still has holes in his game. Whereas Izzy's a little bit more, you know, a little bit more perfect in the way he moves, a little bit more polished. That's right. Yeah. So I know it's a scary fight. Anyone who fights Jared Cannonier is going to have some sort of fear because he can probably knock out any person on the planet. Except for maybe 100 at what's it ccalled, Francis Ngannou's, but or a 10-foot tall. I'm not sure.
Exactly.
But, yeah, but I think Israel is going to have his measure and like treat him like he's treated some of the other big, strong punches that he's fought.
Yeah, I think I didn't realize, but Cannonier is 38, so he's getting a bit old. But obviously, he's come down through like the heavyweights, right? Heavyweights. So he's coming down through the sort of divisions as he goes along, and realistically, in this division, he's what weight was the David Branch fight? Was that middleweight or like heavyweight?
I can't remember, bro. I know he's moved down there.
Yeah, so he's 4-1, and his last loss was in his last 5, and his last loss was against Whitaker. But he also caught Whitaker at the end and in the 3rd round. I think that's what it's going to be. It's either going to be Izzy, pretty clear cut, too polished, too technical, as we all know, and Cannonier's just going to have to probably get some sort of reckless abandonment to his game plan and just hope he can throw hard, throw fast, and just catch Izzy on the back foot, on the exit or something, and just really hope to catch him, get him hurt, and just stay on him, have a finish like that. Because someone like Izzy, you only really get one shot. to capitalize when he's hurt. Otherwise, he's just so defense. Even his offense works so well into his defense that he's so hard to actually hit and hit clean. So even if you do get that opportunity, you need to capitalize and try and put him away straight away. I think Cannonier might try to engage for grapple, but to be honest, I don't think he's going to have too much success. As we all know by now, like Izzy isn't just a kickboxer. He's got great submission defense. He can throw up submissions off his back to create scrambles and look for openings. He's getting sort of better with his hips and everything like that, fight to fight sort of thing. So I think, yeah, Cannonier is really going to have to hope he can sort of create some sort of opening and find his chin or find the body or something. But yeah, I think it's going to be hard against, someone just of Izzy's caliber. Like he's one of the, skill-wise, he's one of the best guys out of any fighter alive on the planet current day sort of thing.
Jared was saying in one of his interviews that everyone's going to be shocked that he's going to pull out something special pretty much. And what could that be?
Crystal?
Man? That's what I was thinking. Is he going to pull out a runestone or a crystal or something? But what is he going to do really? Like he's not going to suddenly break out some move that hasn't been seen before in stand-up. So the only thing it could really be is to force the grapple or something. And he's not a high-level grappler like in comparison to, the rest of the people in that division, although I noticed they're both purple belts. So I was thinking maybe we just throw them on their knees and they can start on their knees and they just fight from there. And then we can take away Adesanya's advantage in the stand up and they can just
put him in a gi, like see how that goes.
I reckon combat grappling from the knees, bro. It'd be funny as hell. It'd be more competitive, I think.
I reckon Izzy would still be pretty good there.
Yeah, I reckon that's be interesting to see though, right? Because they're both kind of similar levels in a way.
Or can they strike off the knees?
Combat grappling.
Yeah, no, I reckon Izzy. But Cannonier is pretty. I think the biggest thing is going to be how we see them first clinch up. But like we said, Rob's a very strong guy, and Izzy was able to defend his shots pretty comfortably. Obviously, some shots got in deep, but Izzy still stayed relatively safe the whole time. Even when Rob backpacked him against the cage, he still did all the right things to get him off, sort of thing. So, yeah, I think it's a tough night in the office for Cannonier. I think he's going to be a fairly big underdog, and I think it's sort of correct. This is sort of like just that mandatory challenger who's worked his way up, beat all the right guys. On paper, doesn't have a massive sort of threat to the champ, but hey, there's been plenty of stories like this where a mandatory guy in MMA or boxing, they just fight their way to the title shot, and they just get it done, sort of thing. So you can never rule that out. But I think if you're sort of predicting and having to go for a bet or anything, I think, Izzy's a sort of safe money for it.
Yeah, man. The other thing I was thinking is, like, will Izzy think like this is a chance for him to engage a bit more in the grappling? Like, will he go to the fence and just try and work more in the clinch? Will he use his timing? Because you noticed actually people can use their timing, like Gastelum used his timing, Brunson as well, to to work on Cannonier with takedowns and that. And I think Izzy's timing will be so good that he'd be able to potentially land a good takedown, against like a raging Cannonier coming forward, So I just wonder if that could be something that he's interested in doing, which the safe bet for him would be not do that. But does he want to do it just to test himself, prove a point, use his skill set? I don't know. It'd be kind of cool if he did.
I guess like in theory it sounds cool, but I don't think it will. Like I think he knows like what he has to do to get the job done. He's like a real professional in there. I think if it hits it, he won't be uncomfortable and he won't try to panic or force it. Force his way out or anything. He'll do everything correct. But I don't think we're going to see him force. And I think he's just going to stay well within himself, fight his game plan, and probably just stick on the outside, avoid the shots, and just sort of chop Cannonier down slowly. And I think he's just going to get another decision victory on his record, to be honest.
Cool.